Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. So, if you're trying to make sense of your own family history, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're unpacking a deeply relatable, but honestly often totally misunderstood topic: family sibling dynamics. Specifically, we're going to look at why certain family members end up isolated and how the invisible structures within a home literally shape who we become. All right, let's jump right in. So, why does one sibling always seem to end up as the family villain, while the other gets to play the perfect child? It's a painful reality for so many of us. You probably know family, maybe even your own, where siblings just do not get along, or where one person is kept at a distance, treated as the designated bad guy of the group. But is it actually fair to judge someone's entire character based entirely on that dynamic? Today, I really want to invite you to look beyond the surface. We're going to explore the hidden parental influences and structural inequalities that create these intense sibling divides. Section 1. The Identity of the Family Villain, Unpacking Family Dynamics. At the core of this whole dynamic is this concept of an assigned role. Basically, this is a behavioral script that gets pushed onto a family member based on their environment and birth order. Now, notice the crucial distinction here. This role is entirely distinct from their actual inherent personality. Just because someone was born first, they might be burdened with incredibly heavy expectations. We have to clearly separate a person's true character from the role they're forced to play in the family ecosystem. They aren't inherently difficult people. They're really just acting out a script written by their environment. And that brings us to how families often mistakenly judge the so-called villain. So often there's one person who speaks strongly, maybe tries to force their opinions through. And right next to them is someone quietly playing the good child, steadily building up this positive reputation. The villain ends up being judged solely on their strong words and actions, and they're contrasted incredibly unfairly with that quiet obedience. So what happens? The true background, the immense underlying pressures they absorbed, gets completely ignored. The family assigns blame without ever really looking at the environment that shaped those exact reactions. Section 2. The immense pressure on firstborns. The first responders of the family. Okay, so oldest children go through a very specific journey, which we can call the firstborn cycle. Step 1. In this little micro-society called the family, the firstborn is the target of the parent's very first attempt at raising a child. All that first-time parenting anxiety, the tension, the high ideals, it's directed entirely at them. Step 2. The firstborn absorbs all of that intense tension. They're usually scolded more and held to a way stricter standard than the kids who come after them. Then, Step 3. Because of this environment, the child develops a really rigid, I must not fail mentality. And finally, Step 4. That intense internal anxiety manifests outwardly. To the rest of the world, they just look stubborn or maybe overly strong, but they're really just masking the intense pressure they're under. Behind a strong attitude, there is often hidden loneliness and a fear of not being recognized. Man, it's such a tragic emotional reality. The sibling who always has to act strong, the one who seems so stubborn, is often absolutely terrified that if they don't push their opinions, their very existence just won't be acknowledged. They've learned from a super young age that they literally have to fight to be seen. On the outside, yeah, they look tough, but on the inside, there's this profound hidden loneliness. When we actually sit down and compare these family environments side by side, a stark contrast emerges. The firstborn environment is defined by high parental anxiety, strict expectations, and basically a trial and error approach from the parents. But then look at the later-born environment. By the time the second or third child comes around, the parents have figured things out a bit. Their attitude is more relaxed, they have more flexible boundaries, and most importantly, the younger children have clear examples to observe. It's a radically different family environment, depending entirely on birth order. Section 3. The savviness younger siblings learn. Learning through observation. Younger siblings have what we can call the later-born advantage. Think about it. They get to closely observe the firstborn's successes and scoldings from a perfectly safe distance. Because they watch the older sibling navigate the minefield first, they naturally learn exactly how to behave to please the parents and exactly where the boundaries are. They get to benefit from the parents' newfound relaxed attitude, and they completely avoid carrying that heavy baggage of early parental ideals. They easily figure out the right answers just by watching. Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand here that this difference is not malicious. It's just the natural result of the family ecosystem evolving over time. The younger sibling isn't being sneaky, and the older sibling isn't inherently bad. This gap in expectations doesn't come from anyone's evil intentions. It's simply the natural flow of how a family environment shifts as parents gain more experience.
Section 4. Fixed roles and deep loneliness. The emotional toll of family labels.
These family roles don't just appear overnight, they solidify over time. Back in childhood, those unconscious comparisons between siblings begin. Who is the excellent one? Who is easy to handle? Who's the problem child? By adolescence, these labels firmly take shape in everyday family conversations. And tragically, by adulthood, these initial impressions become permanently fixed. Because the family unit is so close-knit, the image formed in childhood stubbornly sticks, completely ignoring any personal growth or efforts the individual has made over the years. The role basically just walks on its own. Suppressed emotions don't just disappear. I want to pause here for a second because this is such a powerful reality, especially for the sibling labeled as the perfect one. The psychological toll on the good child is profound, and we really need to understand what happens to all those swallowed feelings. The burden of the good child is incredibly heavy in its own invisible way. In some families, silent obedience is highly valued. The child who quietly nods is favored over the one who speaks up. So what happens? This child continuously swallows their true feelings and opinions. Eventually, they might even think this forced compliance is just their natural personality. But like we said, those suppressed emotions don't vanish. They eventually surface as distance, acting cold towards siblings, or losing interest in family gatherings entirely. People might say, oh, they've changed, or they're so hard to deal with now, completely missing that this is the result of years of silent suffering and repressed feelings. Conversely, consider the absolute tragedy of the villain. This sibling actually believes strong opinions are the only way to exist and be seen. They learned super early on that to get approval, they had to fight for it. But because of this, they get labeled as a nuisance based entirely on their surface behavior. Their inner efforts, their personal struggles, and their deep desire for approval, completely ignored by the family. They end up trapped in this difficult role despite their own personal growth, treated like a burden just because of an outdated childhood label. It's a desperate, learned survival tactic that totally backfired and got them trapped. Section 5. Recognizing and utilizing your role, moving beyond the assigned script. The good news is, recognizing your assigned role is the first step. It does not determine your inherent value or who you truly are. If you've been playing the good child or fiercely defending yourself as the villain, there is a systemic reason behind it. Understanding that reason means you no longer have to blame yourself. Your family role is literally just an assignment given to you by your environment. It is not a fundamental personality flaw. Look, you can't just magically change a personality you've built over decades, right? But you can definitely change how you manage it. If your role was the silent, good child, your next step is to practice gradually putting your true feelings into words, just step by little step. If your role was the defensive villain, your next step is to recognize your hidden anxiety and find alternative, safe ways to seek reassurance instead of always leading with strength. These small steps can really help you gently break free from those deeply ingrained habits. So, moving forward, how might you want to redefine your own family role? Remember, looking back at these assigned roles isn't about blaming your past. It's about slowly making things easier for yourself in the future. Take it at your own pace and think about how you can write your own script from here on out. Thank you so much for joining me today on this explainer. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll catch you next time.